Good morning or evening, friend. Here's your friendly announcer. I
Hey,
have
babe, I'm finna
serious
go out
news
and do
to
this.
pass on to everybody.
Girls, I'm gonna be out on the balcony recording
What
my
I'm
comedy show.
about to say could mean the world's disaster.
The
Could
baby is out
change your
here.
joy and laughter to tears and
That looks weird, but there
pain.
she is.
It's that love's in need of love today. Don't
I
delay.
just wrote
Send
this,
yours
so
in
bear
right
with me, okay?
away. Hate's going round,
It
breaking
is so hack
every
to be black.
heart.
Knee on my neck, bullets in my back. Waka,
Stop
waka, waka.
it,
Another
please,
911 caller. Hey, did you
before
hear the
it's
one
gone
about my
too
historical trauma?
far.
Tell another joke about being choked. You mean the one that Richard Pryor wrote? No, 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 no. Something fresh and new out of the daily news with a unique twist and a distinct point of view. Okay, well, what's another word for laying face down on the curb? What's a better way to say that they don't really protect or serve? Feels so hack being black. Just another parallel thought to something that Rock already said, or Chappelle already said, or Mooney already said, I already said. My wife, my mother, my grandmother, my mother-in-law, my sister will all send me a worried text. I pray you're safe. Ah, man, that's so cliche. Talking to God, hoping that I make it home alive every day. What a tired trope. A neck with a rope. How many ways can you tell the same joke? Oh, but this time will be different. By the power of my student loans, my essays, short stories, and poems that won all of those high school competitions, my comedy festival submissions, I am going to say something so nuanced and specific that it'll inspire the spirit and tickle the senses. Soon as I get the audience's brains to sizzling, it will put an end to this seemingly endless predicament. Just one good punchline ought to finish this. Just let me get a pen real quick and give me some time to think on this now. What did I say last week? How can I surprise y'all when none of this surprises me? I mean, what's the hot take on a cold body? Black pain and black process becomes an American meal, a smorgasbord of struggle porn to get you deep into your feels. Don't it feel so dirty, so twisted, so sick, so done before, so fully explored like a pony with one trick? Before you can fully mourn for Ahmaud or George, get justice for Breonna, you have another and another and another. Like a DJ Khaled hit parade, a cover, a sample, a remix replayed, a retweet to raise awareness, but who can honestly say that they haven't heard this? In the immortal words of New York's Amy Cooper, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to tell them an African-American man is threatening my life. A story she felt was guaranteed to be believed. No matter how defenseless the black body is that's lying in the street, the, oh, I feared for my life routine, well, that always kills, knocks them dead. You can tear gas any heckler who might even suggest that this is actually a tired premise that we are all so very tired of. A dinner party debate that I've lost my appetite for. Too anxious, too numb to be bored. So before anybody tries to tell me that they're a better ally than the other guy or brag about how you have a cookout invite, how about you lean in to being white? Instead of trying to prove that you're all right, take your brother, your mother, your sister, your buddy, your boss, your neighbor to the side and have that conversation with them that only you can have and I cannot, even though I've tried. Because all jokes aside, I heard this one before, way too many times. I got popped with some bacon grease. Like, I was cooking breakfast and I didn't have a shirt on, right? And I got popped with bacon grease. Now, before you make fun of me for cooking without a shirt, I'm just gonna let y'all know these are quarantine times. I have not worn a full top and bottom since like March 15th. If you seeing me at all, I'm in my house, I'm comfortable. I don't got two items on at the same time. I have not worn an entire ensemble for anybody but y'all because I care about y'all. But that's not the point. I was making breakfast, did not have a shirt on. A little bit of bacon grease popped off the skillet, hit me in my abdomen. Lord Jesus, I thought I had been shot. I started karate kicking the air. I was furious. I was in so much pain. I say all that to say, man, big ups to anybody that's out there protesting, that's putting their life on the line for the cause. I commend you. You getting hit with clubs or pepper sprayed or tear gassed or rubber bullets. Thank you for your service, because I cannot do it at all. As a matter of fact, the top 5 people that I love most in the world, we all live here in this same house. So I'm not going to leave this house, right? Not at all. People always talk about our ancestors. I see it on the internet all the time. You see those memes that are going around where they're like, I'm not my ancestors. You can get these hands. You can get these hands. Stop talking about my ancestors, okay? They actually fought for freedom. They fought for freedom way more than I fight for freedom. I ain't never gonna say nothing bad about my ancestors. My ancestors fought for freedom before there was cell phones, before there was internet, before there was even color TV. They was fighting for freedom effectively. You know what I've been doing to fight for freedom? I've been sharing people's stuff on Facebook. That's all. I've been doing Facebook Lives, talking real crazy from the comfort of my own home. If the white man cut my Wi-Fi, my revolution is over. Do you understand that? So thank you to everybody for your service, and thank you for watching this out. I greatly appreciate it. One thing that's interesting to me about the times right now is that I feel more American probably than I ever felt, you know, and I guess I've kind of felt really American ever since I got back from Canada. Right now I'm in Chicago. I'm originally from the south suburbs of Chicago, right? Don't let that word suburbs fool you, right? I'm talking about like Harvey, Dixmoor, you know, Dalton, you know, it's the suburbs, but you can get robbed. I know because I have been robbed there. So, you know, get that picture, get the right picture in your mind when I say suburbs. But that's where I'm from. And now I live up here on the north side. Before a brief stint, me and my wife, we lived in Canada. Our first 2 daughters were born in Canada because it was free. Thank you. And I can remember how American it felt to be in another country, you know? And I can just remember the differences. I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X when my first daughter was born for the first time. I was about 25. I had read a bunch of like Malcolm X speeches and stuff, but I had never read the full autobiography. And it just hit me so hard that he died, you know, because you know Malcolm dies, but it's always heroic and cool in your mind until you realize that he was a person, you know, that he had 5 children and a wife, and he can't be here for them anymore, you know. And that really stuck with me because it was the first time in my life that I was like, man, I don't want to be like Malcolm. I want to live. You know what I mean? I want to live to see my family. I was excited about having a family. It was the beginning of my family. At that time, I was working at a call center, or as I like to refer to them, a phone plantation. It's very much a phone plantation. I don't know if you've ever worked in a call center before, but I'll give you a brief description of what it's like. It's basically a field of visible minorities, all of us doing very menial work, right? And then there's a manager that's walking up and down the aisles trying to make sure that nobody is reading. You know what I mean? It's very much plantation-esque, very plantation type rules. I remember one time they even used the slavery metaphor. It was like, productivity is down. All right, we need you guys to get back on the phones quicker. We don't want to have to crack the whip. I was like, hold on, Jerry. All right. I just want you to know, man, as a black man, I promised my mother that I would never work anywhere where they crack whips or whipped crack hasn't been very good for us as a people. So I kind of try to stay away from that. I would love it if you could refrain from using any more slavery metaphors. Otherwise, I might have to burn the building down. So let's keep it all together there. I would appreciate it. Moved back from Canada in 2016, and it's a different sort of a thing. Like when you grow up around Chicago, or you grow up in any American city or around American cities, like gun violence is a very normal sort of a thing. It's very different culture up in Canada. They have gun violence, but it's significantly less, right? They got less people. They're just less of a gun culture up there. And I remember getting back here, and it was like culture shock to be back in the States. I went to one of them like hole in the wall fast food places by the crib, right? And they had the like 3 inches of bulletproof glass, you know what I'm talking about? Where you like put your money in that bulletproof Lazy Susan, they spin that around, they put your food in there, they spin it back around, right? I just forgot how completely unappetizing it is to order an Italian beef sandwich from somebody that's working in a panic room. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to eat after that. You feel like you visiting your food in jail the whole time. It's just like, we gonna get you out of there. Let me talk to my fries. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I was just in Canada recently doing comedy, right? I was in this small town called St. John's, Newfoundland, right? And just tell you how different it is in Newfoundland versus here. While I was there, somebody robbed a gas station, but they did it with a sword. That's the dopest thing I ever heard of in my life, first of all. If I'm working at the gas station and you come in to rob it with a sword, fam, you can have whatever you want. You learn swordsmanship. I'm impressed. Personally, I'm gonna have you doing tricks. I'm like, hey man, if you can stab it, you can have it. You're gonna be in there taking marshmallows, potato chips, licorice, gummy bears, donuts, you know what I mean? I'm in there like, hey man, can you scratch a Z or something into the counter and take your selfies with them? Hashtag swordsmanship. Other funny thing to me too, while I was in Newfoundland, that was interesting to me. I ordered a bowl of chili while I was at the comedy club, right? And it comes, and it's chili, so it's got all these tomatoes and all these different fresh herbs and spices and stuff like that in it. And it hit me, right? Like, where did all this stuff come from? I don't know if you ever been to St. John's, Newfoundland. It's a beautiful place, but it's not a whole lot of vegetation, right? It's a bunch of hills, it's a bunch of mountains and stuff like that. They don't grow a whole bunch of stuff out there. The only stuff that they grow in St. John's, Newfoundland is gravel and alcoholics. So they don't really have tomatoes just chilling like that in this part of the world. And I'm like, where did they get these fresh vegetables from? How do they have access to all this stuff? And it just made me think about access and how we think about access. Because we think about access very differently depending on where we are and who we're dealing with, right? It's like we talk about Africa a lot, and they have a lot of African immigrants and stuff like that. In my neighborhood, have a lot of African immigrants in Toronto. That was one of the coolest things about going to Toronto, is like everybody is an immigrant practically who lives there. Ever since the 60s, they had this influx of immigrants. So you see all of these different black people, and they're all from the Caribbean. They're all from the continent of Africa, born, you know what I mean? Or first generation Canadians, so they can trace their family back to that. People always asking me that question, like, oh, yeah, where are you from? Where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from the States. And they're like, oh, but before that, I'm just like, not sure. It was actually a secret. If you know and could tell me, that would be fantastic. But the thing about Africa that's so interesting is that Africa is where a lot of things come from, right? I got African coffee in my house, African teas. I'm broadcasting to you on a smart device that has minerals in it that are from Africa. Yet we constantly look at Africa like it's poor and like they don't have enough resources. What's crazy is that you have African wealth that's transported all over the world, but yet Africans are being hurt by European stuff that's coming into their country. It doesn't make any sense into the continent and into those various countries. I don't understand how somebody can have a new AK-47 but an old polio vaccine. They don't make AK-47s in Ghana. That's not how they do that. It's a Russian assault rifle. So my big question is, who's working at the docks? You know what I mean? Like something isn't right there. To me, it's like one of those old episodes of Scooby-Doo, right? And you take like a world problem, you're like, ha, world famine. We've got you now. Let's see who you really are. White imperialism, I would have gotten away with it too, had it not been for your ability to put things into context. Check on my baby. It's interesting, man. I'm a father of three. I have a 17-month-old, I have a 10-year-old, and I have an 8-year-old, all little girls. And what's weird is like when people see me out with my kids, you know, they say like weird things to me. As a dad, I find that period. Like if you're taking care of your children and people see you and you don't have like a woman around you, they always give you weird, like backhanding compliments and stuff like that. People are always like, oh, daddy, you're out with your girls. Are you babysitting? Dad's babysitting? It's like babysitting. I made these people. I think the term is raising them. Yeah. YouTube babysits them. It's a very different thing, actually. I'm beginning to suspect, and maybe this is just me, but I'm feeling like the world is kind of grading me on like a stereotypical black man curve. You know what I mean? Like people are a little too excited to see me raising my own biological children. I'm slightly offended by this. I get praised for the most basic in parenting functions. I had my baby girl out the other day pushing her in the stroller down the street. People came up to me moved to tears. Just touched. As if they had seen the ghost of Martin Luther King Jr. They was just, that is amazing. You should be very proud of yourself, sir. There should be more like you. You are an African-American hero. Chadwick Boseman should play you in a movie. That is outstanding. You know what's funny though? I do it too. I can't even really get mad at people because like I work with a lot of young people. And right, whenever I see like a young black father, teenage black father, right, I always give him his props. I'm always congratulating him. Like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. Your business. That's how you do it. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Whenever I see a young black mom, completely opposite feeling. It's very sexist. I immediately feel guilty, like I did something wrong. I just look at her like, you keep your head up, Brenda. It's not good. It's not good. Matter of fact, like, I feel like it was always very important to me that children are seen like as a blessing, that you be in a position where you can welcome children into your family, into your home, right? Because so many times growing up, when the baby came along, that was like a big problem for everybody. And I was just very happy to see like my kids and be with my kids. I make it a point to do that. Like people will always tell me on my mother's side, they're like, oh, you know, you look like your grandfather. You look like your grandfather. People tell me I look like my mother's father. I hear that a lot. And I can't say that I agree, only because I only met this dude like 4 times, maybe, you know what I mean? Including his funeral. I think those are the only times that I saw him, maybe like 4 times my whole life. Because dude was going around the country like setting up franchise families. You know what I mean? Like you could track the great migration of black people across the United States by where this dude was ejaculating. It was like Skeet, Mississippi, Skeet, Tennessee, Skeet, Chicago, Skeet, Southern California. So stakes are high, in my opinion, for black people. when it comes to sex, when it comes to children. Like me personally, I was celibate when I was in high school. It was a very important thing because I knew a lot of teenage parents when I was in high school. That was a very normal thing for people to have kids. And I just did not want that to be a part of my life. You know what's funny to me is like I watch a lot of movies. Especially when I was a kid, they had all of those teenage movies like American Pie and all of those movies. And it's so interesting that in these movies, you get these white kids typically who get to experiment with sex, but they still get to keep their like childlikeness, right? The whole movie is about them being teenagers and them being children and being seen as children, but they're engaging in sexual activity. I feel like in my neighborhood, once you started having sex, people acted like you was grown. People started treating you like you was the one that was supposed to be responsible for yourself all of a sudden because you were interested in sex. But that's what happens when you become a teenager. You're interested in sex. I was watching this movie called Juno. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a funny movie. It's very funny, but it's not very realistic to how teenage pregnancy works. If you've never seen this movie before, all right, it's about this girl, right, played by Ellen Page, little white girl, right? And movie starts out. She's on her bike, right? Riding her bike, like, oh, I'm going to my boyfriend Paulie Bleeker's house. It's gonna be so boss. Gonna see my boyfriend. It's gonna be great, right? We like the same books. She gets to this dude's house, right? She gets pregnant. She looks in the newspaper, finds a white woman immediately to pay her medical bills and take the baby and adopt it after the baby is born. So she barely has to even tell this dude that he has a baby. He doesn't have to tell his mama. Nobody calls him trifling or nothing like that, right? He continues to be on the track team and live a regular teenage life. She has the baby. The white woman swoops in, adopts the baby, right? And by the end of the movie, this chick is right back on the bike, like, oh, that was a crazy sophomore year of high school. Good thing I still have my innocence and my white privilege. I was furious. I wanted to push her off that bike. That is not how teenage pregnancy works at all. Teenage pregnancy was like a movie in my high school, but it wasn't a comedy. It was like Final Destination. That's what it was like when I was growing up. Girls would have nightmares like, oh my God, if I don't get out of this high school, I'm going to get pregnant. And then just one by one, it'd be like, poof, 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 poof. When a girl got pregnant, when I was in high school, it was like when Cochise died in Cooley High. It was tragic. Everybody was just like, oh God, no. No. She was going to go to college. She had a scholarship. Stakes are higher. These are two different mugs, by the way. Stakes are just higher for Black people. That's why I was celibate when I was in high school. It was very important to me. I was very spiritual. I'm still very spiritual. I felt like it was my duty to be celibate. I talked to my body like a religious mother would talk to her son. I was just like, you are not going to be a stumbling block to this community. You are blessed and highly favored. You're going to stay in here with me. Hey, don't you give me that puppy dog eye. I only beat you because I love you. I'm sorry, Mom. It could get worse. It could get worse. I got a couple more like that, but I'm not going to go too far. But trust me, this is the cleaned up show. Ask about me in these streets. It can get much dirtier than this. How's the baby? She's good. Sex is a big deal. Sex was a big deal growing up, just period. Like I said, man, they treat Black kids like adults way before we're adults, especially when it comes to sex, especially when it comes to stuff like that. That's why R. Kelly was able to get away with it for so long, man. R. Kelly was in my neck of the woods. He was out there in the South suburbs picking up girls. The girl that's in the infamous R. Kelly video where he was peeing on this 15-year-old girl at the time, right? She around the same age as me. I got a homie that actually went to school with this girl. You know what I mean? So this is very real for us. And people are still arguing with me to this day about R. Kelly because we treat Black girls like they're Black women as soon as they start developing sexually. We don't protect them. And it doesn't make any sense. In Psalms, it says defend the poor and the fatherless. And so as a man in that situation, it's your job to look out for somebody. They're 15. Of course, they want to start experimenting with sex. You're supposed to be the mature one. You're not supposed to be the predator in the situation. So I'm not listening to people tell me that R. Kelly is absolved of it somehow because these girls were old enough to make certain decisions. 15-year-olds want to have sex. That's what it's like to be 15. When I was 15, there were 15-year-old girls that wanted to have sex with me, and I have never had a hit record. R. Kelly is also tall. He's also a tall, handsome R&B superstar. Of course, these girls are going to be attracted to him and not really know how to navigate it. That's how that works. I'm not tall. I'm 5'7", and I know what you're thinking, but no, I haven't been in any accidents or anything like that. That's just the tallest that I ever became. I have not grown since 1997 when the Bulls won their very last championship. That's when my growth spurt ended. Phil Jackson left the city of Chicago, and I was forced from then on to not be able to grow physically anymore, but only grow emotionally. I remember the day that puberty quit on me, right? I got a mustache. I was like, good work, fellas. I'll see y'all tomorrow. They was like, nah, bro, we out. What you mean you out? Where's the rest of me? I don't even get no shoulders. It makes perfect sense for them to be attracted to a grown man who is an R&B star. They are children, and they should be treated like children and protected like children. But we don't treat our young black girls, our young black kids like children. We want to treat them like adults, try them like adults, put them in adult situations and expect them to make better decisions than most adults even make. Talking about some, oh, she a 15-year-old girl. Why would you let somebody pee on you if you're 15? Why would you do that? I was 15. I knew not to get peed on. It's like, he is an R&B superstar. Of course, a young girl is going to let him pee on them. If Janet Jackson wanted to pee on me when I was 15 years old, you know what I would say? Hey, we should tape this. We should, Janet, so I can show it to my boys. Like, hey, fam, come check this out, man. This is me. This is me right here under the stream. Look. With Janet, boy. Oh, I done made it in show business. They're not adults. They're kids. We definitely do this with black boys. We act like black boys are supposed to be having sex when they're boys. When they're boys still. And this brings up a whole power dynamic when you introduce them to sex in this way, like it's about being cool or it's about being more powerful than the next person. And we wonder why we have things the way we have them. This is how we treat our young people. And it's actually very sad when we treat young men and young women very differently. At least there's been these institutions like womenism and all of these things that have developed to fight back against that idea for young girls. Young guys, we're still treating them like it's cool when they have sex when they're 14 and 13 with fully grown adults. If you 14 years old and you a boy and you have sex with a fully grown woman, people act like that's cool. People patting you in the back like it's a cool thing. Never mind the fact that 20 years later, you can't hold down a successful, intimate relationship with anybody. You got children all over the place. People still acting like you a cool person. Like, you a player. You got hoes in different area codes. It's like, no, that brother got child support cases in different area codes. He might want to see a therapist. We got to do more to protect each other, and not as much to protect these figures and these institutions, because they had a chance. They had a chance to do differently. And I know R. Kelly has that mess up history, so you hope that he gets help, right? Because think about even the stuff that R. Kelly would do with these girls. It's not even just sex. The whole peeing on people thing. The whole peeing on people thing and spitting on them and all this other stuff. That ain't got nothing to do with sex. That's got something to do with power and control and being able to have control over their body and make them do stuff that they don't want to do. I have been married for 16 years. And peeing on each other has never been a thing. It's just never been a thing that we was trying to do. You understand that? If we fooling around and we pee on one another, that's the last thing that we can do. Because now we smell like pee. The evening is ruined. I don't care how much Jill Scott you play. The pee smell has taken all of the romance out of the situation. I can't even pee on my wife in our bedroom. Now the bed smells like pee. I'm the second oldest of 5 kids. I slept in a pissy bed many, many nights. Not one time was it romantic or intimate. That's not the feeling that you feel when you wake up in a pissy bed. Not at all. If we was gonna do that, we'd have to come out here to the balcony and I'd have to lay her on the tarp. Then I gotta fold the tarp up and clean the pee off of it and put it away. It's way too much work. I don't understand why people would do it. Some of you are at home right now going, just do it in the shower. You're nasty. You told on yourself. See, I knew that. You could have kept that to yourself. I'm kidding. You know, if you like to pee on each other, I'm fully grown adults, do your thing. That's the last one. That's the last joke. My poor nieces and nephews are like, ugh. That's the last one. It's just we do that. We have these. It's about control. That's the point that I'm making. It's about having more power than the next person. It's just like with the Cosby thing. Because I loved Bill Cosby, right? I'm a Black comedian. Of course I loved Bill Cosby. And when I found out what he had been accused of, I immediately went and I looked this up. And the trippy thing, right, is a lot of people will say stuff like, oh, this all just came out all of a sudden because he was trying to do this or he was trying to do that. And that's not actually true. There's actually a paper trail of him being accused of these things for the last 30 years. You know what I mean? And he didn't just slip women quaaludes and sleep with them. He did all types of stuff just to have power over them. There was this one woman who was a manager of a comedy club, and she was hanging out with Bill Cosby, and he drugged her and then took her clothes off and put them on backwards. And when she woke up and her clothes were on backwards, he was laughing at her. That's the type of stuff that this was about. It wasn't about sex. This dude was a cool, handsome dude for his time. He had a whole lot of money. He's been rich my entire life. He could have got consensual sex, right? I'm sure there were some women who would have consented to having sex with Bill Cosby. They just wanted to be awake for it. I think that was the big thing that got him into trouble. Like I said, bro, I've been married 16 years, right? Anytime me and my wife get together, that is a consensual thing. But if at any point during the experience, she drugs me, I black out. I wake up hanging from the ceiling, wearing nipple clamps. She going to jail. I'm telling on her. I'm snitching. Believe that. 16 years down the drain immediately. Just so that we're clear. Stakes are just higher in our community. Things are just, the sexuality in general, man, to me is very much based on class. You know, it's very much based on class, right? Like I told you, I live on the north side. Up here on the north side, there's a lot of different sexualities, right? There's not just gay and straight. There's all these different types of sexualities you can have. You can be bisexual and pansexual and all of these other things. You don't have that in the neighborhood that I grew up in. We don't have pansexual in Harvey, Illinois. That's not a thing, right? Matter of fact, you can't be pansexual once you get south of the Cermak stop on the red line. You immediately don't have that as an option anymore. Period. There's the only thing that you can be other than straight is gay as a mug. Those are the only other options that you really have. Like even me, I'll give you a great example, right? I am exclusively attracted to cisgender women. That means women who were born, right, with female genitalia identifying as women. Those are the only type of people who I am sexually or romantically attracted to. However, in order for me to have a sexual relationship with somebody, I have to have a deep emotional connection to them, right? So in my neighborhood, that makes my official sexuality gay as a mug. You see what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. I'll give you use it in a sentence, right? Right? I would be, when I was a kid, they might see me walking a girl home from school. They'd be like, hey, Mark, I seen you was walking Ashley home yesterday, bro. You hearing that? Well, actually, no. I really just enjoy her company and was concerned about her safety. Concerned about her safety? This man, gay to the mug, boy. See how that works? It's a spectrum. And gay as a mug only works if you're a dude. If you're a woman, you just freaky. That's the, you don't get to be a lesbian or bisexual. You're just freaky. That's it. You're gay as a mug or you freaky. I grew up in the arts and in the church, and pretty much everybody was gay as a mug or they was freaky. Everybody was either having sex secretly or trying really, really hard not to have sex. Those was the only two groups of people that we had in that particular age group at that particular time. Like, you've heard the term, oh, I experimented a little in college. You see what I'm saying? It's all about class with people, right? Because you experimented in college. That's a classist statement right there. That means you got to take out a student loan if you want to be pansexual. You can't just do that regularly. You're going to owe Navient some money if you want to find out whether or not you are pansexual or not. And experimenting in college only works in certain colleges. If you go to DePaul, right, or the University of Chicago, right, then you can be like, oh, I experimented when I was in college. But if you go to community college, or you take classes online, and you stay at your auntie house, you just gay as a mug. That's it. Period. You just freaky. You don't get to, you went to DeVry, you freaky. You freaky at DeVry. You know, you had to go to Dartmouth or something like that to experiment. It's true. It's very privilege oriented, man. Straightness is a political category. It means I get to love who I want to love and do what I want to do in my life because I'm considered straight and nobody will bother me. Straightness is like whiteness. Like, whiteness is not a real thing. It's not a real ethnicity or a heritage or a background. You Italian, you Polish, you German. But white is not a thing. White is a level of citizenship on a racial caste system. White is something that you put on your ID that keeps people from denying you your God-given and inalienable human rights. But it's not like a actual culture in and of itself. You know what I mean? Like, in America, you know, if you don't have that one drop of black blood thing, right, then you get to be white even if you didn't start out white, right? That's what the one drop rule means. It just means you're disqualified for whiteness, right? When Irish people first got to America, they wasn't considered white. Italian people, Greek people, they was barely considered white. They didn't let Jewish people be white in America until they started stealing black musicians' publishing. They had to get initiated into whiteness. Right now, you don't know whether or not Armenian people are white. Think about it. Think about it, right? Are they or are they not? I mean, they went through a whole genocide. But watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's pretty white. There's some pretty white stuff going on that show. You cannot really tell. That's why, like, if you look at mixed race black people, for example, right? If you black and you're mixed with something else, you get to be two things. That's how being mixed works. It's a very magical situation, right? If you, like The Rock is black and Asian, right? He can be both of those things. He can be on the cover of Ebony magazine. He can also get an award at the Asian Athletes Award Ceremony, right? That can happen. Lenny Kravitz is black and Jewish, right? He looks good with his hair locked. He also can have a bar mitzvah. He can do two things. People will accept him doing those two things. If you black and white, you don't get to be white. Nobody ever lets you be white. That's not a thing that you get to tap into. You're black and mixed. You get to be black and mixed. You don't get no white privilege. You get light skin privilege, and that's not nearly as good. It's very regional. right? It's like the Walgreens card of privilege. You ever been with somebody when they light skin privilege ain't accepted somewhere? It's a scary thing. You're like, dang, they turned down his light skin privilege? I don't know if it's safe for me to be here. Look at his grade of hair. They don't like him. They really ain't gonna like me. Sexuality works very simple. And the older I get, the more I like realize how my responsibility changes, right? Because like I give you a good example of like a change that I feel in my responsibility as a man versus when I was younger. When I was a kid, man, I used to love gangster rap. Like I love gangster rap. It was my favorite type of music. Like Death Row in '96, that was what I listened to the most. Then I got older and I was like, I don't know if I can keep being a fan of this. There's way too many rapists in my top 5 MCs. I'm gonna have to scale back with this particular subgenre of rap. Because rap wasn't always like that, especially gangster rap. When gangster rap started, it was all very like narrative driven, right? They was always telling you about the like ills and the sad angles of the streets, right? It was Ice-T and Ice Cube, and then they would always tell you a story, and you knew it wasn't a story about them because the dude would die in the story or get locked up in the story. KRS-One, Love Is Gonna Get You, they get locked up, they die. That was what would happen at the end of these rap songs. It was always some real sad narrative, like, and that's when his mama fell down the stairs, because in life, nobody cares. She fell down the stairs. She fell down the stairs. Nobody cares. Fell down the stairs. She fell down the stairs. It wasn't until like '93 when like the Chronic came out that it really became kind of cool to be a gangster, right? And me, I'm not gangster at all. I'm not a hipster. Okay, I'm an actual nerd. I've been dressing like this the entire time. There's lenses in these frames, they prescription, everything. I really can't see. Like, if I ever met a gangster when I was growing up, it was never in a gangster environment. It was always like, oh, bro, you a vice lord? Oh, well, thank you for coming to the poetry slam, my dude. I appreciate it, man. You be safe. So I was never on some gangster stuff at all. But I love this music until I realized just it's that same sort of energy. When they talk about sex, it's not about sex. It's about power. It's about control. It's about dehumanizing somebody, demoralizing somebody, being better than somebody. It's so crazy, right? Because like I told you, I was a big nerd. I was the type of nerd that when we had a free day in gym class, I would be reading Maya Angelou. So everybody is playing basketball and spades, and I'm in the corner reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Still Sings. Crying for the rest of the day. People walking up to me like, Mark, what's wrong? It's like, rape culture. But that's true. And what really hurts is like growing up reading that literature and like being an actor and all of this stuff. You find that like Black women writers write the best Black male characters. You know what I mean? Like all of the really great Black male characters that have come into like popular culture in the last 20 years or so. So many of those was written by sisters. It was like Pearl Clage or Gloria Naylor or Lorraine Hansberry or Susan Laurie Parks, or like even in television, like Shonda Rhimes writes all these great brothers. Issa Rae and Insecure, like those are the best Black male acting roles on TV right now are the ones on these shows by Black women. And then so much of the art that we make as Black men paints Black women in a nasty way. You know what I mean? And it's bothersome to me. It's very like, we just don't protect them the way that we should, even in that really small way. So I had to stop being a fan of it. I remember back in the day when they still had like CDs and albums and stuff like that, and you would stay up late and they would have them infomercials where they would sell you the different music collections, and they'd be like, it's the 60s soul era and the 70s funk era. They never did one of those for the 90s gangster rap era, because it wasn't an era that you want to commemorate like that. It's not like, and the genocide misogynism era. Man, every cut on this album is show enough self-loathing. You got to let me borrow it. No, my nigga, you got to get your own. I saw this interview with Too Short, and he was explaining like the misogyny in a lot of these songs and how like, well, you know, black men, you know, we never got to be sexual and da-da-da, and in the 70s and the quote-unquote black exploitation movies came and it finally showed the black man as like a proud sexual person and da-da-da, and that's what we was drawing from when we was rapping and all of this stuff. And it just makes me wonder what those initial songwriting conversations must have been like, you know, bunch of black dudes sitting around like Uncle Ben, Uncle Tom, Sambo, and that big magical black giant, you know, from the Green Mile, where they all sat around swapping locker room legends, telling tall tales about broad tales with skewed details of their sexual prowess, the imaginary superpowers of crotch rockets, showing off a collection of belt notches, you know, talking. When all of a sudden, the master walked in. Now, immediately they started to grin. Anything that these dudes had, the master would take if he felt threatened. So he spoke up. No, boys, don't mind me. I was just listening in. Tell me some more of those stories that you spit, she recognized. And so one by one, they got a little bit more bold. I made Harriet Tubman black out last night. Well, you know, I skeeted in Sally Hemings' eye. I told Sojourner Truth I would call her back, but really that was a lie. Madam C.J. Walker love it when you pull her hair. You call Ida B. Wells out her name, that'll get her in the mood. But I ain't never met a thought that give better brain than old Marion McLeod Bethune. And so, Uncle Ben, Uncle Tom, Sambo, and that big magical black giant, you know, from the Green Mile, where they all went wild, celebrating in the streets. Because Mr. Charlie the Master, well, he thought this would be a great addition to his newest minstrel show. He struggled with the title, but settled on, we don't love them hoes. And they went wild, celebrating in the streets. After all these years of being emasculated and sexually marginalized, well, now it seemed like they were finally free. Who would have thought that the colonizers would pay for stories such as these? That just to put your business out there without a care and with a little flair, you could put clothes on your back and shoes on your feet, rims on your Cadillac and gold on your teeth. They say, go on and sell your suffering. They are buying suffering. Any stories about defeat. Well, you could become richer than your wildest dreams if you can make colonizers clap, laugh, dance, or weep. Hey, baby girl. Hey, baby girl. Oh, I got you. You okay? You okay? You okay? You okay? You waking up? Thank you.